Hello, Judge Napolitano and or Americans. Joshua Julian sought me out instantly on Facebook. I never saw him on campus, never saw him. I never partied with him like he pretended with his using his syntax on Facebook, even if that wasn't him. People on my street who were involved from other areas tied to him were planting evidences with two proven child abusers, leaders of kids years apart, first forced. And they're one of the ones who rolls with that, with the Facebook page of the Child Abusers Campus. New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page also has collusions with them. The same names involved with that also have former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his family members, and C.I.A. There are people on with syntax regarding the C.I.A. on Facebook involved with Eric Jensen, who's also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed he was influenced by his roles with the intelligence family and state police and whiting forensics and people along Burlington Turnpike involved with identity theft, fraud, slaves with his educators. They're acting in a former Mayor Gold, conjunctions to a former Mayor Gold. Increasingly, a C.I.A. Faglione family sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. They have collusions with the former mayor through time, with people on Griswold Street. And these are people with the courts and the state corrections offices and the state judicial branch offices. They have military, foreign and domestic military families. They have I forgot, it's the name of a general. I don't know the same name. I don't know if it's the same, if it's a general type, but there are military involved with organized crime acts and methods, and they're pretending they're legitimate intelligence, like with the Kerr family, a DeMoro family, and people from other countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan involved with that corner. With a mobile gas station in the place directly across, diagonally across the street from them. But those same people with that corner for through time, they've been planting fake evidences and collusions with all sides of criminal and civil cases. There is a Perone family also involved there. And they have 3 spots at the end of the Perone Turnpike with a bunch of people. They have Mark Violet, and these are increasingly people next to Hartford Hospital, with the businesses and houses next to Harvard Hospital. And Eric Jensen had collusions too through time with Harvard Hospital intelligence. And this is brought up by Harvard Hospital that sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. And they have wire mail crime acts and methods. And they have a whole bunch of people that work with Harvard Hospital and the security of them and lawyers of them and their family members and doctors, foreign and domestic. They have a whole bunch of Russians and other countries involved with the fire department's family members. In investigators recorded how used remotely, criminally, foreign influence, tactically, delusions, raw. So they're faking details and forcing child abusers with the news too. People with the name O'Neill are increasingly too involved with the Phil Cololo and this Joshua Julian with whiting forensics, with wire and mail crimes, digital crimes, drug crimes, including with the state corrections offices, with the prisons, increasingly crimes as families involved with the crime spots and body dumping spots relative and campuses they had roles with predicate acts with. You ever see how they describe prisons? That's not to make their prisons seem bad and people not to want to go there or not to want to go back. That's their excuse for how they pretend they could speak about corrections. They're shown they need to hide life progressions. These guys were kids. You came through criminally, foreign influence, tactically, delusions, raw campuses, black pupils. Get them on paper. They've been switching in names and forging names. A bunch of people within the Britain Superior Court as families have collusion /S with organized crime acts and methods on my street with people from other areas planting evidences with them. And then now they have World Trade Center predicate acts. And with WFSB, Channel 3, CBS News, they faked conversation with me about the World Trade Center attack. They increasingly have foreign and domestic military and the roles of time collusions with Saudi attackers, interstates with people named Scalora, involved also with police confessions on my street and other police tied to them. And with the phone wire crime, mail crime, false fake conversation with me as a kid, now as an adult. Increasingly, they have the name Kate McKenzie. She'll tell you, I never even saw her around. I don't even know her. Increasingly, too, people who have roles with a Chris Walters is increasingly involved with intercities and with people at campuses putting fake things and fake ties, fake nature ties to campuses. His rules with the agencies, with his neighbors, people named Lombardo. I never saw Lombardo on the street. Never had a class. When I got out of the class, they try to make a fake exception too, with something to do with Church Street and people tied to a Joe Lombardo have roles with his educators, putting predicate acts with facts in databases, his brothers too, and their neighbors and family members of the neighbors, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and a whole bunch of people at once. And they pretended that people had conversations with themselves. And in those conversations, they pretend people said that everyone was following them or everyone's evil. In other words, a whole bunch of people at 3 times at Harvard Hospital, they sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. They have collusions with various natures of organized crime acts and methods, including digital, where they're changing and faking what's actually digitally recorded. As the network's intelligence, the difference of their guilt of the names there, like WFSB fact-based conversations with me before and after I was in 4th grade. WFSB has had rules through time with their relationship with the campuses, with the relationship /S with the campuses. WTNH, their sources, have been planting evidences at corners of streets and other exceptions to make that, to have that collusion and appearing for other motivations, appearing to be how people live near each other. Mark Violet is one of the ones recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with people all along Ridge Road, involved with a whole bunch of people and their family members. And they take a picture of me near a house on that street, a great house with a porch. I don't know the people there. They're trying to qualify things with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and people from Korea and people from other countries involved with the O'Brien family and with the Violet family and the Justin Klebinskis all along Route 175. They have some black KKK theme, Korean theme, Confederate flag theme, Latino theme, Italian theme, identity theft, fraud, slander, sequence shift, collusions with all natures of crime scenes. And these Mendez police that attached me to fake conversation with the older brother at the police station and forced parties to collusions with them. Ones with the name DeMauro and Cololo said that Scalora is their cousin. There are people with the name Scalora that Wethersfield police recorded and confessed, demonstrate, confirmed, involved with them with predicate acts on my street. You need to get them on paper, one name in sequence. Get them on paper, one name in sequence. They've been with the fire departments too, lying about what actually happens, going to instances just for totally different things too. All that is manifest because they are haven't been used remotely, criminally pointable / hyper criminally pointable since they were kids, the names of the people, the sciences, or the counters to that. Little kids even could discern how the names of the people, the sciences, forgiveness because there's a hyperform that needs, made all natures of integrity, styles, natures of logic, reliant upon other things, others ourselves, to be blamed for what is most probable and demonstrable regarding the past, regarding the principles of history, for example. They want to use the knowledge of good and evil to get over on what is principle. James Madison, for example, he had to force, his plan was to force the rest of the people to forge a unity, even though that unity was against the law, of overt criminal enterprises, private ones, internationally monitored conversations, terrorists. Then America's founders were born. No one had free speech. They had this to classify for themselves and others. Instead, there are styles, natures, needs of logic that value it over what so they tell me to go. That's how we told to teach the class. They hold that back. Our founders are distinct from our presidents / chiefs. They directed us to understand this more so than some colonel said, don't shoot until you see the whites of eyes, even though that's the only thing that everyone remembers. The only thing you guys need to remember, if you're going to remember something together, everyone, Americans, is that and how everyone used James Madison's plan, including George Washington, who demonstrably was counter-extorted to an extent too. George Washington, some retired general, and It didn't have means to counter those internationally monitored conversations. Didn't have means inside of more than 13 states, entrenched even with slavery, northern colonies and southern colonies, and roles without having been sustained and measured and maintained, roles syntactically collusion / S against themselves and against everyone else. All systems, styles, syntax therefore functions apart from what black pupils' whites of eyes communicate. It's about relativity. We have black people's whites of eyes. There, and other species' bodies have eyes. And we didn't generate it and they didn't generate it. Therefore, there's relativity / hyperrelativity too. Because there's that we are distinct from the other species' bodies, but we are non-distinct from them. And we are simultaneous with them. Up per an identity of simultaneous nature that is distinct even from that, while non-distinct from it, and simultaneous with it / hyper-simultaneous. Nature shows us they've been using the value of their knowledge of good and evil as the breaching method knew they would, projecting collusion / S. With collusion / S, that we know that nature itself communicated to us about how, and when we had forgiveness, because we understood also, well, this is how we're taught to train it, to teach it. And there's that illusion of who's doing their homework or not, or the value of that. This breaching method knew that it would have to show the identity of these experts. They need to keep things that it caused and use them, use / S of them, blamed on other things, others themselves, through other things, through others themselves. So they value the laws and the principal treatments with the names of the sciences, the names of the departments, individually grouped and together. It's recorded hyper-evidentially. For example, the departments at Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, they have names through time involved with timed organized crimes, with child abusers, leaders of kids, first forest, and roles with pretended integrity, safety needs of unmarked police forms on a mass scale. They're using those they don't have it. Where there's no integrity of the law voices, black pupils, we have black people's whites bodies. We know that we shouldn't have to debate, you're being rude to police. If you try to be honest about the police integrity and realize they don't know how to react, I believe it was like unbelievable number of cases that a Judge Napolitano in one of his live streams one time, he said he had the first day he went to be when he used to be a Superior Court judge in I believe in New Jersey. I believe it was like 250. I don't know. It was like some kind of number like that. Like, how could you deal with details properly with 250 cases, let alone how with nature itself is showing us, and our founders included, left the classifier for us to communicate about how no one had free speech, including them. There was a breaching method that measures and still there measures and maintains an extent of self-value collusion / S with the breaching method pretending other. They're going to speak about industries, leaving out, no, but you can't tell American history properly if you pretend it's even debatable. That the suburbs were designed to an extent, they're archaeological proofs, / hyper-archaeological proofs, so to speak. The suburbs are criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw quality aspects in nature to cause negative value nature progressions, acts in natures, and roles with systems and as the humanity voicing altogether as styles of it, pretending not to realize that we've been tactiliterior systems than the one that's generating us as a different species body made up of a whole bunch of individual bodies. And then while we were shown there are a whole bunch of individual species bodies made up by a whole bunch of individual bodies. And it is generating, because it is not us nor them that is generating that. even though exceptions are true. Those exceptions in exception nature come with demonstration / S of the same thing. And this is how nature communicates with us. But they have been stealing my identity, the news and the interbranch at the same time. They've been putting fake transcripts since I was a kid. A bunch of people tied to two Mendez brothers have roles with falsified transcripts at the Wethersfield Police Department, and their educators when they were kids. Also with the FBI and courts from off campuses, collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the identities of a whole bunch of nations where they use and have used that for identity theft, fraud, slander, rule, collusion / S cover up / S as styles, use / S collusions too of logic, reason, nature, and of motivations, even the real ones. They are propagated that way to be hide behind and through by the breaching method that countries A through Z. Recorded, measuring and maintaining, everyone leaving the breaching method as a scientific value out, where it is inseparable from proper fact treatments. Inseparable as inseparable as how a breaching method reassigned what nature communicates and how nature communicates with Black people's way to life from proper telling of American history. And how our founders left this declassified too, communicated for themselves and for nature, and that's still replaced. Not one has traced, because everyone changes and fakes what people say. And many pray. So whiting forensics increasingly has rules with digital crimes, with judges and prosecutors, and with the state judicial branch office and corrections offices, and even medical and fire campuses. A bunch of fire departments have Harvard Hospital involved with them, even with Russian, Korean, Italians, etc. At the same time, some Black KKK, Confederate flag team, Latino team, on the same time, right on the Facebook page of the principal child abuser too, and with the networks. People named O'Neill have been planting evidences with whiting forensics and names all along Ridge Road and the corners on that street through time. Tony Tomorrow, too, involved with sequence ships, identity theft, fraud, slanders, with the corner of that. And Mark Violet, too, with a Paul Kelly at a corner on Ridge Road, and with a whole bunch of people tied to retired police chiefs and their intimate ties, like a police chief Cintron, and his daughter. I never even was around. I don't know her. Jessica Cintron. They're increasingly demonstrating, communicating, confessing. They make confessions because their motivations they have to hide too, because their motivations are criminal foreign influence / hypercriminal foreign influences, including the shooting there, whether it was right or not, reportedly tied to the police chief Cintron. He's increasingly tied to people on my street like Kevin Dillon, planting evidences on all sides of my house. The Inspector Mike too won't identify himself legitimately. There's a Mike Del Ferro involved with some probate court judges, family members, with sexual and medical offenders of kids, with fire departments, with some Black KKK theme, Confederate flag theme, Italian theme, Latino theme. Interbreed the ones next to the campuses too, as the ones involved with the fire and medical campuses too, lie progressions from the collusion / S with that, and their roles with the judicial and corrections offices with identity theft, fraud, slanders too. Increasingly, people involved with the World Trade Center attack with all sides at the same time have collusions all along Route 3 in conjunction into that being recorded, confessed, demonstrated. Oh, that land there, and that's why they say, oh, they don't want to talk about the details online. They fucking confessed it. Get them there. They have their kids interbranch and involved with the foreign too, and the intelligence tied to them. Their kids or their adults. The difference of their guilt is at the same time with overt criminal enterprises and private ones and terrorists now too. See them using words like extremism all of a sudden. What the heck are they talking about? Oh, but we know we're experts on economics. Get down from A to Z. You guys can't afford to have discern what our founders communicated about the private criminal enterprises, about the war crime action methods. and the equivalent at the time. The identity theft, fraud, slanders of the Weathersfield police families, retired and standing. Pretend it's personal either. That's criminally foreign influence too. This is how you guys will get safety and everyone and happiness for yourselves too. Get them on paper. Get the don't stick up with these Mendez and put your fake motivations to screen the rest. They're involved with the World Trade Center predicate acts. A whole bunch of people tied to them too. Increasingly by tied to this Riley family and the Board of Education and their building and next to it, with mayors involved with criminal enterprises and people with the rape threats and things like that. That they sought me out as a stranger to record the wire crimes of the Weathersfield police tied to that after that to hide that. John DeMorrow. He's got a Paul DeMorrow involved too with DeMorrow's Market, where it is now and where it used to be in conjunctions to it. These are people that put fake letters too. Experts on handwriting with the FBI or with other agencies, even if they are or not, with the music place next to it too, tied to the Stryker name. The name Stryker. What's up with this Joshua Stryker? Identity theft, fraud, slanders with his educators behind my back in the FBI and his co-defendants and their family members. Increasingly with people planting evidence on my area and on my street, tied to this, but I never saw him here. It wasn't even my grade. Get them on paper. A Dean Judd, Dean Alfred, a Dean Judd and his kids too with Central Connecticut State University have rules with people. Dean Alfred is involved with a Joshua Stryker with the FBI director and with courts, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with people at interstates, planted evidences with the names as in collusion / that's with names next to the World Trade Center, at the World Trade Center, and the court next to it, as the ones that are involved with doing that and all sides of the cases, but they're also having that done for them. Like a Detective Samuda is one of the ones involved with the FBI director and a whole bunch of people from Weathersfield involved that in the Central Connecticut State University in the Britain, Connecticut. And a whole bunch of people tied to former mayors like a Dennis, a John Dennis and a Joe Dennis. And their roles with names and people confessions tied to their roles all along Route 175 and their fake motivations for why they did it. They're involved with investigations. Investigators being have been used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusion, draw, mass identity theft, fraud, slanders roles. In other words. So it has to do interstates too with the people with the name Neville. It has to do all along the intercities with former mayors and people associated with the name Neville and Route 3, and involved too with all kinds of medical corruption of all distinct natures too, to keep the styles, because shared self-fired wire crime acts and methods roles and legal. They have all kinds of legal scams. A whole bunch of people from Hartford Hospital have all kinds of legal scams and putting fake things in databases, criminally foreign influence, readings of statutes and precedents, collusion / us also with all natures of crime scenes. All exceptions they use to cover things up with that and use / us of it. Increasingly, a Leahy family attached me to fake conversations with themselves and about religion too. No. And while they were forcing child abusers, leaders of kids, they have a Judge Killian, one's named Smith, involved with sexual and medical offenders through other natures of organized crimes, changing digital evidences. They have a Dr. Zeman involved with people that see juries, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrong. We need to pay attention to whole organized crime acts and methods, and the roles with time uses of the overt criminal enterprises and private ones, people have nothing to do with it or what. They have, so the difference of that, because they have ones that do with that too, like the Brian Silver. Increasingly, people tied to a Brian Silver and the Britain Superior Court's prosecutors and judges have been planting evidence on my street and wire crime acts and methods. They have people, Chris Walter said that there are people at the corner of Knott Street and Walker Hill involved with his syntax, where he sought me out as a kid and then as an adult. Every once in a while, he would seek me out to make confessions and demonstrations. As one of the people I don't even know some of the people's names from other areas that did that. And I recorded how they used that. There already been collusion / us with everything that came before them. A whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of a whole bunch of police departments involved with the same house / us with their syntax and use of my name and lying about pretending it's personal. In other words, I don't want to hurt my neighbors more than anyone else. You guys are lying about that too. That's recorded. That's why they're not following mandated law. They're changing and faking what's digitally recorded. Don't hide this from Judge Napolitano. And the conjunctions. And these are the retired and standing law. They have self-valid rules being and haven't been used remotely. We're going to pay attention to where and how that, in other words, where they have principal syntax, have collusions with Department of Children and Families, with all kinds of child abuses and child abusers, and organized crime acts and methods. A whole bunch of people tied to former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, before and after, before and after the World Trade Center attack. Also with foreign and domestic military. A bunch of people tied to it as a Joshua, Justin Klavinsky. I never met his brother. I don't know him. His brother has roles with FBI and other Weathersfield police and fire departments at the corner of with syntax and searching, trying to search for cover-ups tied to their roles with the corner of Griswold Street and Fair Lane. And that's one of the things that's connected to these police that attached me to fake conversations with themselves as a kid, now as an adult. It's also the roles with fire departments and with campuses, with identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake motivations for it, and their roles on all sides of the community center and at the community center. Hartford Hospital has a bunch of foreign and domestic military involved with the community center, a bunch of ways involved with the World Trade Center attack, Weathersfield's community center, and people next to the networks involved with them with the identity theft, fraud, slanders, collusions with all natures of crime scenes, and next to them. They have stories about a Sullivan and a home captivity, and they have her son, the difference of their guilt, collusion /S with the investigators that, and the fire departments involved, and their syntax involved, and roles with people on Park Street and Hartford involved with the FBI director, Robert Luskin, his lawyer, and increasingly with child abusers, leaders, and kids then, and now more recorded still, then had roles then with the ones that were years apart and that one, in other words, the principal being. And they're still refusing to get on paper because they have criminally foreign influence readings of statutes of precedents. And they know this. That's why I'm telling you, get them on paper. Judge Napolitano, please, FBI and the courts, they have a Joshua Julian, a Ray, ones with more than one person with the name Ray Cololo, involved with people with the name Scalora, interstates with the World Trade Center attack. I was in the court right next to it. These are also families that have had collusions with all sides of criminal and civil cases and interbranch fakes and intelligence tied to them at the same time. Increasingly, it's their roles with East Hartford, with the unmarked police forms and their campuses, with all sides of Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, has something to do with their roles with the corners on Elm Streets in Weathersfield and Rocky Hill, which is conjunctive to Route 3, which is conjunctive to the state judicial branch offices, increasingly collusions with people there that have roles of the World Trade Center attack involved. Like the WFSB faked conversations with me, with themselves, and with others about it. They also have collusions with those people at that corner of that street, like with the Mazzucato Bakery. If you want them bought into it, police chief Sid Tron, get them on paper. Get me up a big conversation with these Mendez police too, and get the FBI on paper now too. And I want the court's names on paper now. Get them on and get me up a big conversation with WFSB now, and the people at Hartford Hospital with this Leahy family. Oh, Rick Sanpaolo and others were influenced to make up fake things about me, and with military themes, with people behind my back and that weren't even in my classes, and with the intelligence families on my street trying to make fake sequence shit. And they keep bringing up Town Line Drive and the town lines, people with the town lines, and people with the, in other words, what are they doing with this Perone family? A bunch of people involved with the name Perone and tied to them too with the Mark Violet, and people involved along Franklin Avenue, Weathersfield Avenue, and next to the networks, involved with all kinds of investigations, investigators having been used remotely, criminally pointable, tactically delusions wrong. Get them on paper now. I want a response for what I caught them doing with the principal child abuser. And since they've been doing it intercampuses too, intra. Get them on paper now. There are more people involved with threats, credible threats too. They have overt criminal enterprises, private ones. They all run in at the same time with the families of fire department, people associated with the police phones, families know, 911 families know, as ones involved with time collusions with World Trade Center attacks, time collusions with the news with it too. That's worse than fake news. That's news predicate acts and news predicate acts methods recorded. Just have follow mandated law for them. No one's going to email while you change your fake emails. They have women investigators involved planting things on people's campuses. Harper courts have rules with sexual offenders of kids and pretending other too with women involved with the foreign and domestic military. Eric Burgess has women involved with that. She put on my computer. She asked me for permission to. She was making confessions though that are ongoing regarding Harper Court and New Britain Superior Court. Half of them, Eric Burgess made not with her. Eric Burgess has fire departments and people like Dean Judd and his family members with Central Connecticut State University and locations next to his house in West Hartford, involved with many people from Wethersfield and the syntax of a Joseph Demoro, of a Joe Dennis. Joseph Dennis is involved with that park in West Hartford, and people with New Britain involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, per a former mayor Gold and others. And in other words, if you try to treat people as good people and show how they're victims / hyper victims, they'll play you. That's why you need to get them on paper, one name and sequence, and get me off the fake ties, fake natures of ties to Joe Dennis. In other words, and get them on paper so I can show you who could be reformed and who can't, because they've been real sick too long. And tactically delusions rot, experts on reason, and with exceptions, using exceptions and exception nature tactical ulterior from how nature does. We're going to observe. Follow mandated law for them. WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News has roles with World Trade Center predicate acts people, and with the names interstates who have their extended family members also involved with the people from the other countries and how they were motivated to that. Also, I don't know the people named Matt Olson and Eric Olson. They're also involved with state police families and intelligence in the FBI and courts involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids, including with DCF, as people run prisons too, of kids, of adults. They care about their jobs, not legitimately. They care about reason. They can't speak for reason. No way. Little faggots. That's how they try to scare people, or we were trying to scare people. No, you really are that. How would they put some Cintron kid in my jail cell wanted me to go in a tent with him? Cintron, same last name as the police chief Cintron, and he brought up or confessed roles with Puerto Rico and people associated with what's his name? It was a boxer that Paul Spadafora took the title from, and I fought Paul Spadafora 1995 in the finals of the Ohio State Fair, or it was 96. But Pito Cardona, I never met him in my life. I could beat him too. I'm telling you, I could prove it, even with the YouTube. But and it's nothing against Paul Spadafora. I couldn't even touch Paul. The day before, the kid didn't touch me though, but I was slow. But I was just hitting him off balance, and I couldn't hit him hard. And the day before, Paul Spadafora fought someone I never saw a fight at that pace in my life, ever then, up to then, ever since. But anyway, that a whole bunch of people tied to Puerto Rico too, involved with Pito Cardona and Weathersfield Police with locations next to it, like with a Mr. Neville, has roles with names all along Route 3 that have been repeating fake things and planting evidences. Where that's recorded, they use crime methods where they say or do whatever to hide what's actually recorded and to hide, which is collusion slash S are recorded. And there are evidences and the readings of statutes and precedents. There are means to show that they are criminally foreign influence tactically delusions reliant upon descriptions of instances of trade agreements incapable of putting tariffs and love in the same context because it would have brought up the breaching method. And in other words, it would have brought up a whole bunch of counters to things as collusion slash S. We're going to pay attention right through world wars. The psychiatry and the foundation of it is criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, collusion slash S. And our founders left us to speak about principles distinctly from that. So we're going to have to get them on paper too. Harvard Hospital won't communicate with me. They've been pretending through the mail. They had conversations with me, with people named Lombardo and Leahy involved with child abusers on my street. People from my street recorded, confessed, demonstrate, confirmed that have organized crimes with them. Untimely death rolls years apart. The same ones that collusion slash S. The same ones involved with child abusers, leaders of the kids, years apart. Collusion slash S. And get me off the fake ties to these people named O'Neill, increasingly collusions with whiting forensics with the Saudi and people associated with Saudi attackers, with O'Neill. And my Saudi friend, they forced a collusion with the O'Neill, and one's named Mendez that put me in fake, and Cololo, and people with the name Phil Cololo, and tied to a name Phil Cololo, all along 2 Highway where it runs into Hangdog Lane, are people that make confessions. These are people that also with medical corruption with their syntax and roles with the corners of the streets on Highcrest Street, with the corner of Highcrest and Hangdog Lane. Is people involved with medical campuses, interstates too. There's a Jennifer Kennepicky, and there's Rick Cianfaglione, who made recorded, confessed, demonstrate, confirmed the Leahy family, and others involved with his identity theft, fraud, slanders, federal evidences, crimes against me, collusions with my neighbors. I didn't even tell them their confessions and demonstrations about him, and they have their educators. They're repeating fake things with a former mayor Gold and something to do with their roles with intelligence on Griswold Street, identity theft, fraud, slanders. Please, too, they're the ones bringing this up. I want to get it on paper, which actually recorded too. They're forcing the Facebook pages of campuses and of courts, collusions with sexual and medical offenders of kids, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, people tied to body dumping spots. Watch what else. A whole bunch of things were recorded at once.